Retail workers of Reddit, what's your Black Friday horror story? Not so much a horror story but something I just couldn't believe. Black Friday at Asda, British Walmart. There was these microwaves like 70% off and the store and was so busy you couldn't move. There was empty shelves all along the aisle up to these microwaves and a guy laid down on the shelf and Army crawled along the shelves, grabbed a microwave and Army crawled back with it. Edit. We had a lady call the police on our store because we sold out of a TV. I really wish I was lying. They came too. It was technically the day after Black Friday, but it was still busy as all hell. I worked as a customer service supervisor at a CompuServe before they closed down. Think Best Buy. And all of my checkers called in sick that morning. All of them. So I am the only f-king one ringing people up. For the first like 6 hours of the day. When I finally got a 15-minute break, I went into the back area and blew up at the first manager I could find. I was so pissed and stressed. He just sat there and let me vent to him. After a little while I went back to him and apologized to him. And he was cool with it all. That day sucked. I worked at Toys R Us some years ago. No standout bad customers. But it surprised me how many parents brought their young children out at 3 AM and then got mad and would yell at their children for whining, crying because you can't get any toys. Christmas is next month. Ask Santa. Your kid is exhausted and you dragged them to a toy store. Of course they are gonna be pissed off. Working there really changed my perspective from being annoyed at TTY kids in public to being annoyed at TTY parents. I work at the largest lingerie retailer in the country. We had a security guard last night for the beginning of Black Friday. A Southern Belle mother decided she didn't want to wait in a 50-person deep line and she would cut. Our security guard asked her multiple times to step to the back of the line or leave. She proceeded to ream him with every curse word in the book. And ended by threatening him with a gun she had in her bag. This will be my last holiday in retail. HE customer who took a sh*t in one letter SNF my fitting rooms and then wiped her douse ass with a $125 Polo Ralph Lauren dough hat. Nothing more needs to be said. I worked for a golf superstore as a cashier. Black Friday customers come rushing in and the line starts. I proceed to scan the first item and nothing. The registers are completely down and the lines are growing fast. The only thing we could do is take every transaction manually. Write down SKUs. Calculate tax. And use the old credit card swipers for 3 hours. I never worked retail during Black Friday again. This year was surprisingly tame. People were all in really good moods, which in turn makes me happy. Last year a woman yelled at me for taking too much time to finish her transaction. That her kids were in the car and she didn't want CPS to take them. Okay then. I saw someone get the crap beaten out of them for the toy of the year. Hatchimal. My dad was a police officer when the toy of the year was the Tickle Me Elmo. He responded to a call at Walmart or Target, can't remember which one exactly, of 2 women beating each other up over one. When he went to break up the fight, one of the women bit his arm. She bit him so hard that she actually spit some of his skin and blood out onto the floor. He had to get his blood tested every 6 months for 2 years after the incident to make sure he didn't get any diseases from her. People are f***ing crazy. I worked at a grocery store in high school. Black Friday was my favorite day all year. Hardly anyone goes food shopping the day after Thanksgiving. At Staples, I watched 2 grown men get into a brawling fist fight over a $30 label maker. It wasn't even the last one. When I was 15 I got my first actual job. It was at a clothing store and my first day was Black Friday. I thought it wouldn't be a big deal because I was hired for men's formal wear. When I show up at 4 AM, a manager tells me I'm working women's shoes today only. Absolute madness. The worst part is shoes salesmen get commission. But since I didn't have employee numbers I got only minimum wage. Losing out of hundreds of dollars extra pay. That's probably why they put the new person on that job. When I worked at Best Buy, I watched two elderly ladies get in a fist fight over a Nintendo DS. That and the cleaning the aftermath of Black Friday. Looked like a grocery store before a hurricane. I used to work at Walmart during the late 90s. I worked overnights unloading trucks. And back then the store I worked at didn't have mechanized lifts to get stuff up into the bins in the back. So stock reserved for the Blitz sale was all thrown up there by hand. Anyways, 3 hours to go, we had to get 3 pallets worth of 19-inch Symphonic CRT TVS down. My coworker, Alan, didn't want to throw them down one at a time. So he pushed a pallet of Pampers down first, followed by all 3 pallets of TVS. Over the next few days, several of those TVS came back as returns. I try to think that they were crap, but also wonder how many were damaged during the fall. About 15 years ago, I was working at a bookstore in a mall. Somehow, around 5 PM maybe, I found myself the only employee in the entire store, not a single co-worker to be found. And we were slammed with customers. We usually had music playing in the store, controlled by an ordinary 5 CD stereo in the back office. And of course, this is the day the inoffensive holiday music gets brought into circulation. Around the time I found myself alone, I noticed the stereo had become stuck on repeat, just playing the same song over and over. It was at least an hour before I was able to get away from the counter. And so that was the day I was forced to listen to some kind of generic A very jazzy Jingleables some 30 times back to back. I was working at a gourmet stop in 2010 on Black Friday. Saw a kid pull a plastic knife from the food court on another kid. Guy tried to steal a Bluetooth speaker this Black Friday at Best Buy. After we caught him and called the cops, he was searched. The cops ended up discovering 3 items he was hiding. 1. Loaded gun. He did not have a concealed carry permit, nor was it a registered weapon. 2. Bag of black tar heroin. 3. JBL Flip 3 speaker. This man will now be serving hard time because he wanted an $80 speaker. Nice. Just today I sold a couch to a guy who drove a Prius with no roof rack. We do not deliver and he wouldn't leave until we found a way to get this thing secured to his car somehow. Not only had he clearly not planned ahead or thought it through, he was a total jerk about it and insisted on making it our problem. We ended up using half a spool of twine to tie this thing down, and he had to climb in through the window because the twine went through his doors. I really wish I had taken a picture. At one point he complained to our GM, who had no idea what we were supposed to have done to appease this moron. Finally, we insisted that he sign a waiver before leaving because we were not about to be held responsible for his own stupidity. Of course, this was also during the busiest part of the day. I don't mind helping load or tie down for customers, but this guy took the cake. Worked greets at American Eagle today. My job was to stand at the front and tell you what the sale was. Some lady walked in with like 8 bags and the alarm went off. So I smiled and said that it went off most likely because there's possibly still a tag on one of her items. This was her response. I just walked in and you're already accusing Emmy of stealing? And then stormed off. Nothing special honestly. Just another day of retail. Yeah. Small Canadian town life. I've worked quite a few Black Fridays, but the worst had to be Radio Shack. It was my first day, and I had no training. All I could do is point and hope to God they didn't ask me questions. Radio Shack. You have questions. We have blank stares. PSHHH Radio Shack getting customers? I work at a kid's store where almost everything was half off today. But the thing is, I normally help moms and grandparents at the register, so I don't see Best Buy style murder over televisions. I get old ladies yelling at my co-workers over the price of smiley face pillows and women bringing in hundreds of dollars worth of clothing and kiddie makeup they bought weeks before at full price, just to buy it all back right away at sale price after the return's over. A grandpa shouted, "This is Bol LSHTF me because I told him we were out of bathrobes." Good times. Edit. Reading all these replies has taught me that the store I work in has a completely trash return policy. We do all our returns right then and there in front of the customer's face. Sometimes without receipts. And I have to get the manager to come look at every return before I do it at the register. So there's no way for me to lie to them to make them leave. Sigh. Well, 2 people got shot in the parking lot of our local mall today after engaging in an argument with someone else inside the mall today. So there's that. I don't think it was on Black Friday, but I was working for Payless Show Source at the time and Oprah had some sort of coupon thing on her show for 50% off. Our store was pretty small. And it was completely packed. We didn't usually do very much business. So we're out of the door at 9:10 p.m. every night. We didn't get home until 1 in the morning. The store was destroyed. We couldn't do any store maintenance during the 5-6 hours rush. So I'm amazed that some people could even find their products. I don't think I've ever walked into a Payless that wasn't in some kind of disarray. My Black Friday 2 years ago was just the opposite of crazy. I used to work in a grocery store. So it was absolutely dead the whole shift. I have never been so utterly and thoroughly bored before or since. I would have killed for some crazy shit to happen just so I could have a chuckle about it the next day. I am not an employee. But I stood behind a lady at Target who was returning a newly bought iPad. She was livid because her iPad wasn't charging. She claimed that the tablet had Wi-Fi connection to the store and it wasn't charging like it was supposed to. She was told that the cord came with it was the only way to charge it. She balked at the statement and adamantly said that since it's hooked up to Target's free Wi-Fi it should be charging. Sadly this is not the case and left spot not obscenities. Sad to think she thought Wi-Fi charged her iPad. I sometimes wonder about people like this. Thinking, how did you get this far in life? This was about 20 years ago. And I don't recall if it was actually Black Friday or just holiday shopping season. Working at Costco, I witnessed a fist fight between 2 men over a parking space. Started just as you'd imagine. Car A is hovering waiting for someone loading up their car to leave. And when they do, car B swoops in from the other direction into the spot. It was a fairly even matchup. Until the girlfriend of one of them decided to give an assist with some pepper spray. She managed to pretty effectively get both of them in the face, ending the fight. By the time the ambulance and police car made their appearance, everyone trying to get in and out of that busy parking lot was pretty screwed. When I was working at Walmart, me and another co-worker had a lady come during our Black Thursday sale with her children. She was going around shopping with her kids for a while. But then she saw me and my co-worker in the bedding department. And left her children with us. Asking for us to watch them while she went to get some products. Before we were able to tell her no, she disappears and doesn't come back for her kids for 20 minutes. Both of us are just standing there, watching her kids slowly freak out and cry for their mother, wondering if she is going to come back. My supervisor then walks by and sees what's going on. And when we filled her in, she was quite annoyed with the mother, who by this point has yet to make an appearance. When mom finally showed, her children rushed to her, and my supervisor had a chat with her. Unfortunately, I didn't catch what my supervisor said to her. I'm just sitting here reading through these comments. My Black Friday went as such. I work at Office Max. There were like 3 people in line at 6 AM. We got like 10 more in the next hour. That was it. Last year my store had some seasonal cashiers start on Thanksgiving Black Friday, and within the first hour of his first shift some idiot tried to steal cash out of his drawer and stuff it in his apron. Our AP guy simply walked out his office and escorted him off the floor until the police arrived without the customers noticing. Worked at Urban Outfitters. It's 7 AM on Black Friday and I'm in the fitting room making small talk with this mom with like 10 bags while she waits for her teenage son. Me. Wow, you already found a lot this morning, her. Yeah. We've been here since 10 PM. I insisted that I did not work at the store to 2 different customers. FCK it. Too many horror stories. I'm gonna give you my last customer from today. I am a service advisor at a very large Toyota dealership. My typical Q-top was rolling around. I usually stop writing cars an hour before my shift ends, but I got a car that came in for a wheel rotation. Wrote it up and immediately got it into the shop. My techs knocked it out lickety-split and I got it over to the wash. I was bored and wanted it done right, and washed it myself. I even vacuumed the car. Drove the car up to the drive-out section. Called the customer and turned in the paperwork to be closed out. Asked my boss for some of the Knott's Berry Farms tickets that all Toyota dealerships in Sokol are handing out. And when he came to grab his car, I let him know that I was able to wrangle some Knott's tickets for him. His face lit up like Christmas. Hope he has a great holiday season. I had someone take a shitty in the fitting room because we wouldn't let him use the employee bathroom. He destroyed several items of apparel that he left on the floor after he used them to smear it on the mirrors while his children were in there with him. One of the SHTTY managers hid one of the Black Friday special flat screen HD TVs when LED TVs were new to the consumer market. They were really expensive. And each store got 3 to sell at a DEF discount. She didn't get fired for it, and she got to buy the TV at the end of her shift. My first day working at Kohl's was Black Friday. I vowed to never work in retail again after that day. I got a $10 crock pot for my mother for Christmas at Kohl's. Only had to shank 4 people for it. Definitely the woman who came out of the dressing room to tell us that a pipe must have broken. Upon checking said pipe, we merely found that she had peed in the corner of the dressing room. Water doesn't smell like urine. Maybe she just found the pee. Usually the dressing room pissers don't tell you about it. I worked at Best Buy in 2010. Black Friday was held, but someone brought sloppy joes for all our hard work. I got food poisoning and almost died 4 times in the ER and shit my pants in front of a hot nurse as I passed out the second time. One of 4 girls was working at the jewelry counter and a customer shoved one of the huge spinning cases that sit on top of the counter right into her back. Cut her and bruised her bad. Craziest part? The lady did it for no reason. We reviewed tape to see WTF happened. No one saw. And we watched the lady walk up, loom around, and just rear back and shove it forward with all her might. Then walk away out the door like she didn't see a thing. Middle of the rush. She hadn't even spoken to anyone or picked up merchandise. And no one knew her or have seen her since. My Black Friday went smoother than a regular day. Everyone was kind and pleasant to the staff. Systems didn't crash as they usually do. There was a fight outside the store between 2 elderly women clawing and kicking each other to the ground with blood on the floor and all. So I got paid and entertained. We even ordered pizza. I was working at a small mom and pop toy shop back in 1993 and it was the Friday after Thanksgiving. End of a long day. We were about to close. I had to refuse a customer because she wanted to write a check with no ID for a huge purchase. Big $sign item. Can't recall what. The customer kept yelling, "Look at me. Look at me. Look at me." So I looked at her but nothing happened. Super awkward. As lead clerk I would have been fired for sure if I took a check with no driver's license state ID. And I loved that job at the time. My co-workers were my best friends. So I apologized for the policy best as I could and offered to hold her items for the next day or when she could locate her ID. Can't exactly recall. After a few more look at me shouts, she stormed out. Then my co-worker let me know it was Dion Warwick. He thought I knew so he didn't say anything. Because earlier that morning I was telling him about how much I hated the "That's What Friends Are For" song. I had no idea. Actually work asset protection for a large retail chain. And worked 17 hours straight from Thursday until today. Among other things. The worst thing to happen on my shift was that every single person was receipt checked at the exit. The sheer amount of curses and yelling about racism, gender discrimination, etc. was absolutely awful. Mine is the anti-story. I went to work today at a big grocery store. My job is to shop people's groceries. We normally do 40 orders in a work day. Today we had maybe 5. The store was deserted too. The cashiers were just standing around waiting for customers. Funny story about dead grocery stores. My mom was going on about how we couldn't go to Walmart because it'd be packed. But we need food. When I recommended going to the grocery store where nobody was going to be, she said FCK it. Let's just order McDonald's. Because they're not going to be packed.